Master of the spy genre, his own cover as an MI6 agent blown by the double agent Kim Philby. Jon Carré's latest book is published on Thursday. Once again, he has reinvented his spycraft. This time, the spooks are on the trail of dirty money. Money being washed through the capitalist system by politically connected Russian oligarchs. Le Carré is convinced that there is complicity with these men at the highest level in both houses of parliament. Famous for his closely guarded privacy, his television views are rare. But I did speak to him at his home, high on one of the West Country's remotest cliffs. I'm travelling almost to the tip of Land's End, on my way to meet an ex-spy. Being a spook is a profession they say you can never really leave. So dense is the latticework of professional deception and betrayal. A world of shadows. Fittingly, the man I'm going to meet doesn't seem to exist. Jon Le Carré is what the spooks call a cover name. The real man, David Cornwall, guards the privacy of his clifftop house and rarely gives television interviews. But I've been invited. Le Carré says he has something to tell me. Frankly, I don't know quite what to expect. But to my palpable relief, our interrogation begins with breakfast. Perhaps he's going to play a long game. Yes. Nearly 50 years ago, as a young MI6 officer, David Cornwall, by now writing as Jon Le Carré, wrote the first of more than 20 best-selling espionage novels, many later dramatized for television and film, including the George Smiley books. Now in his 80th year comes a new novel, Our Kind of Traitor, which deals with the shady world of Russian oligarchs and the dirty money they launder across the capitalist world. The oligarchs and the extent to which they're moving about within capitalism and within the West's financial system. How complicit do you think the British state is?
I think at the financial level we go practically anywhere for money. And I think that there's probably a big competition in the world, first for Russian oil, and secondly for Russian money. Nobody much cares that most of the big fortunes of Russian money are actually stolen. In one way or another, they were stolen when the state silver was stolen. It seems that we've drawn closer to Russia in disproportion to what a disagreeable country Russia is becoming.
You believe that this illicit laundering mafia activity is now endemic
in our British society. I asked a couple of top British bankers this question. I am Mr. Orloff. I have $100 million to invest in your bank. The banker's answer is, well, you know, we're not detectives. Basically what they were saying is, show me your passport and a utilities bill and we'll open an account for you. So there is the constant mystery, which I think is exemplified in the present situation. What is black money? When does it go grey? When does it go white? The applicants claim to have the support of 3 major city banks and secured assets of $500 million and unsecured assets of billions, lots of billions. They're coy about just how many billions for fear of frightening the horses. The application is supported by a number of august financial institutions, domestic and foreign, and an impressive lineup of homegrown illustrious names. Your predecessor, Aubrey Longrig, and our Minister of State in Waiting happen to be 2 illustrious names. They are joined in their representations by the usual contingent of bottom feeders from the House of Lords. What I am concerned about is the amount of influence they can exert, also in both Houses of Parliament. And I did pick up rumours from the intelligence community and ex-spooks, as I was writing the book, that there is a great deal of hidden influence, particularly in the upper house.
Our interview, ostensibly about this latest book, proves to be far more significant than I'd realised.
Let me tell you something, the truth. I will never do another interview again with anyone for the rest of my life. It was just a decision that this It's just an expensive spirit you don't need. So ours is the swan song, which is huge fun for me. I mean, what a way to go out.
So is this last interview to be a settling of accounts? Suddenly there's an urgent need to know so much more about him. How were you recruited?
Well, I was recruited informally when I was a young student in Switzerland. It was the element somehow that I felt born into. It was in those days definitely a calling, and for all that I've written about it, it was a pretty decent calling in this sense that we were very patriotic people in ways which I don't think we are anymore. Secondly, the ethic, which I believe has been greatly undermined in recent times, was that we spoke truth to power. However we found out our information and checked it like a good journalist, at that point we didn't adulterate it to please anybody.
But there was a dirty side too, even in your day.
There was a dirty side of that. Was the other part of the calling, so to speak. The message was somebody has to clean the drains, so we'll do it.
His own cover as a spy in the late 1950s and early 1960s was that of a British diplomat in Germany, running agents, handling traitors, and luring defectors. It was a distrustful world, one of intrigue and betrayal. He had his cover blown by the arch double agent Kim Philby, the highest-ranking British Soviet defector in history.
I'd been betrayed by Philby. I actually refused to meet Philby in Moscow in 1988, I think it was. For me, Philby was a thoroughly bad lot, just a naturally bent man. You have to remember that Philby was in line to become head of SIS. I wouldn't have trusted him with my cat for the weekend.
It was as the Berlin Wall was going up that he was inspired to write. 2 years before he officially left MI6, the Secret Intelligence Service, Le Carré completed The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, the most successful espionage novel ever.
The sight of the ramparts of this new Cold War going up in the ashes of the old war was overwhelmingly awful. I thought, to get out of the secret world completely. Went back, sat myself in Königswinter on the Rhine. I was working in the British Embassy in Bonn, and in 5 or 6 weeks wrote it.
5 or 6 weeks?
In 5 or 6, yes, probably 6 weeks.
As well as holding down a job as an agent?
Well, yeah, but I was getting up at 4 or 5 in the morning, driving my family mad.
The Spy Who Came In From the Cold was a game changer for the espionage novel, laying out an ideological and treacherous world, in stark contrast to the glamorous scenarios of Ian Fleming's James Bond.
That was the book that actually not only altered my life, but probably expressed feelings more directly, in a more apposite way, at the right moment in history, if you will, in my personal history and the history of the outside, more than any other. That was it, that hit the note. Most writers who become successful can actually talk to one particular benchmark book. If we think Kingsley Amis, we think Lucky Jim. Doesn't matter how much he wrote before or since. If we think Daphne du Maurier, we think Rebecca. Popular writers have usually got one flag they can always wave, and it haunts them, haunts me. I mean, can I ever write another Spy Who Came In From the Cold? Answer, no, I can't, but I can do other stuff.
There is danger in your books. Were you in danger in the service?
No.
No.
I don't think so. Danger is what you sense. I don't believe so.
Did you subject others to danger?
I think I'll pass on that.
What are the bits of spycraft that you, as a writer, like writing about?
I love interrogation. I find that really fascinating. I did quite a lot of interrogation, and it was always of the sweet kind. The long, patient discussions, the befriending, and so on. I have complete contempt for the other sort of interrogation.
Could we take those things off his hands?
Most people, if they want to confess something, they need help, they need compassion, they need a pastoral connection and an intelligent connection, not a bullying one.
You and I have spent our lives looking for the weaknesses in each other's systems. I'm sure each of us has experienced innumerable technical satisfactions in our wretched Cold War.
We had a sense of pastoral responsibility. We looked after them, cared for them, and they were ours. And there was an immense sense of loyalty towards the people who you helped betray.
When Checkpoint Charlie was sort of abandoned and the wall came down, the work people who said, poor old Le Carré, that's his goose
right.
cooked.
Yes, funnily enough, in the last address that George Smiley made to the world, in a little book I wrote really to finish Smiley off, he said that now we've dealt with communism, our next job is to deal with the excesses of capitalism. I believe that's true. I felt that I'd invested a great deal of my life in fighting the Cold War, at least very formative years, and I wanted to feel that there was a decent product at the end of it, and it was very hard to find, and it still is very hard to find.
With the wall down, Le Carré began to give vent to his sense of anger with the post-Cold War order and capitalism's imperfections. The constant gardener neatly chiming with concern at the time over the activities of giant pharmaceuticals in Africa.
Big Pharma was a perfect target for that. The excesses, the pharmaceutical industry, the invention of illnesses, the invention of compounds that are not really new but are patented, the excessive charges, the lies they were distributing.
What is writing to you?
To be truthful, it's the whole of life. It's the imaginative world in which I live. I can populate these hills when I go for walks with the characters of my imagination. It's reconnection with childhood to a great extent. The making of heroes and villains really belongs to our early lives, and later on we have muddied perceptions of people, and I suppose I do both those things at the same time, really. For me, the writing life is the only life. That's all I know now. I mean, that and my family, we have very little social life.
Le Carré's wife, Jane, is at the very heart of his stubbornly non-computerized writing process.
These are original pages, more or less.
And you leave yourself a lot of room down there.
Yes, I always leave a lot on the left-hand side. And this is the rewrite of the rewrite, and so all of that bottom paragraph is gone. And then I start snipping bits out. I live with a stapler and a pair of scissors. The lovely thing writing by hand is you can see exactly where you're going. I don't make plots. I don't, in advance, I don't make great march routes and things like that. I actually try and throw people into a messy situation and see how they'll sort it out.
While you're writing?
While I'm writing. So the whole adventure is one I share, as it were, with the reader.
So, why is this your last interview?
I've talked to you probably with greater honesty than I've spoken to any journalist on television. I still would come away, I expect, with a feeling of self-loathing, which is quite normal. I mean, down here to receive you all, it's wonderful. But actually, it's a separate world from the creative one. I love to sit somewhere unnoticed and observe. I love to be a quiet guest at the dinner table, not show off. I've seen other writers dissipating their talent by being brilliant, socially speaking, and then turning in second-rate books which haven't half the talent in them they have at the dinner table. I'm terrified of all that. I know I'm fluent, I know I'm a performer, but my performance has got to be solitary and confined to me.
John le Carré. David Cornwall talking to me ahead of the publication of his 22nd book on Thursday. Now with tonight's top culture, technology.